Also wir lesen zuerst von Transcendental Diary, Tagesbuch von Harishori Prabhu. Telling his audience that the purpose of Lord Krishna's descent is to protect the real Dharma and remove the cheating that goes on in the name of religion, he explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, the Kaitava Dharmas have been eliminated. Kaitava means cheating. So too, cheating Dharma in Bhagavad Projita has been swept away. Just as you sweep your room with a broom, whatever dust is there you remove. So Bhagavad Gita speaks of that Dharma. So all these religions that we have invented, Hindu, Muslim and other Dharmas, Bhagavan does not come to protect those. Bhagavan is interested in real Dharma. Dharmam tu sakshat Bhagavad pranitam. This is an interesting point here. The Srila Prabhupada, Prabhu was speaking yesterday about cheating religion. And cheating means, one more time to repeat, cheating means we are deprived of the real thing, and which actually belongs to us. This is cheating. For example, I don't know, simple example, we can eat very opulent feast for free every day, but then somebody tells us, no, you should go and eat this dry bread from 6 days old, a little moldy. This is good for you. And you said, okay. But actually, in reality, you could eat very nice feast every day, but someone is depriving you, somebody is cheating you, don't give you the real thing. So this is what Kaitava Dharma means, that we have opportunity to reach the highest perfection, but instead we got told by other religions or other spiritual practices that this is what we should achieve. So we are aiming for less. They gave us lesser aims or lesser goals. So therefore it is cheating, it's Kaitava. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, today is the very, you can say, auspicious Verscheidungstag, disappearance day. But just remember, the Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very auspicious because he started with this clearing up what is real Dharma, what is not real Dharma. He's the one in our history of the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is the very, very important, in recent history, very important personality. Because after the Lord Chaitanya has left this planet, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were there in Puri and in Mayapur and in Vrindavan, but in due course of time, somehow the Gaudiya Vaishnavas became a very, this is the word I use, parochial. Parochial is the word, we have one church, and one church has how you call its own like every church has their own congregation, for example. In this here, Firtel. So this is parochial. The Vaishnavism became very small, very getiled, and Bhaktivinoda, and at the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, Vaishnavism was almost forgotten, except for the few Babajis who lived in the holy dhams. So much so that even Chaitanya Charitamrita, we were speaking yesterday, Chaitanya Charitamrita could not be found in Bengal and Puri. You could not find a book to read. Imagine, the land of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this was the main religion. I was saying yesterday, imagine you go to Israel and there's no Bible. Nobody has a Bible for hundreds of years. And you said, well, this is a birthplace of Jesus. And no, we don't know. So, sorry? Sorry?
They have.
Oh, they have, okay. Thank you. It's completely out of context, but anyways. Yes. This is just talking, I don't want to say nonsense, but something like this, yeah. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was really eager to read Chaitanya Charitamrita because after some time he developed these sentiments to want to worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he grew up, anyways, I don't want to speak too much now, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur grew up in Devi worshippers family. They worship the Devi, Durga Devi. In Bengal, this is very common. They worship the Durga Devi. This is like a main deity they worship. And after some time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur developed desire to worship Lord Chaitanya, but he could not find anywhere. And what is more important is at that time, the Britishers came and brought this influence that everything, whatever is coming from India, is old and useless. But what comes from England, that's cool. That's the coolest thing. Even Rajiv Gandhi, Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, he had, I've read somewhere, that he had monthly or whatever, what's the time period, that his suit were made in England. So brought from England with the airplane for him personally, so he can wear a suit from England. How much people from the big countries like Germany or America, they cannot understand. But I know from my country, whoever comes from Germany, they were like, wow, he comes from Germany, or he comes from America. Wow, must be wonderful. This is how it was when I was growing up. Somebody comes from America, wow, Or I remember when I was also new devotee and somebody comes, and this devotee comes from Germany. Everybody's, he must be very advanced. He comes from Germany, which is true. Devotees were advanced, but this was not the point. The point was that because they come from Germany, they must be advanced. This is this so-called inferiority complex that we think because they're coming. Nowadays, of course, it's the reverse. Nowadays, whatever is traditional is becoming big. Therefore, India is now becoming nationalistic. This is our tradition. I posted our Harinam the other day, one of the Harinams I posted on Facebook, and some lady, Indian lady, she took it and she shared it everywhere on the Facebook, and she said, we are forgetting our tradition, they are following our tradition, they are upkeepers of our tradition. So now people are waking up slowly, but this was at that time, there was just the opposite. Whatever comes from India is useless. And therefore Gandhi started this movement, non-violent, non-cooperation, peaceful non-cooperation. And then he also wanted everything to be made in India. Therefore he started this so-called cottage industry to weave their own cloth in India. And Prabhupada was also a follower of Gandhi. He was wearing this khadi cloth. They did not want to wear British clothes. Of course, nowadays everybody wears British clothes, jeans, all men wear jeans, which is ridiculous, as Maharaj said the other day, last week or a few weeks ago. Jeans is the clothes of the Bauarbeiter, the common workers, like bricklayers. And we think this is the coolest modern thing. But this is actually, in America, this is worn by the workers. They work on the dock, these physical workers. And now this became a fashion. Jeans became fashion. Or they wear these cheap flannel suits or these shirts, horrible.
They have to rip the jeans.
Yeah, exactly. Rip the jeans to look really cool. So this is all at that time. So all kinds of different philosophy. The Vaishnavism was considered to be a religion of the poor people or not intelligent people. As they say nowadays, these so-called atheist movements in Europe, let's say, if I want to go to the church, I leave my brain outside, then I can enter the church. Because if you think, you cannot, whoever thinks has a little brain, they cannot believe in God. This is their philosophy, So at that time was also like this, this is only for the poor people, for uneducated, believe in superstitions, this is for them. But for real intelligent people, they are gathering around the tea stall, drinking tea, and discussing, modern topics for the philosophers from England, or even religion from England. This was the modern thing, which is another interesting thing. The tea, Indians did not drink tea. This is not an Indian. Nowadays, everywhere you go, every step is a chai piyo. Garam chai in the trainers, garam chai, garam chai, everywhere. Hot tea. But tea was introduced by the British. The Indians, they did not drink tea. Tea was introduced by the British, and they had planted all kinds of tea everywhere, and this is how tea became popular. And in the beginning, nobody even drank tea or coffee. Also today, you go to train, coffee.
No pizza.
And no pizzas.
Now even in my airport they have pizza.
Pizza stand, yes. So this is all introduced. And how did they introduce? They gave it for free. And they preached. This is interesting. Preaching. A propaganda. Coffee is very good for your health. And then they were giving free coffee to everyone. When I happened to travel, I was traveling, you can say. When I was in Pakistan, and I did not have some money anyways, I was looking for some, and then they told me you should go to this Adventist church, they may help you, whatever. So I went to Adventist church, and there was a Sunday, and what did they do? The priest, he made all big pot of coffee, and he invited locals to drink coffee for free. So when they drink coffee for free, they become Christians. This was his strategy, because this is a propaganda. So in India also there's a propaganda to give coffee and tea for free and tell them this is very good for your health, you should drink this. And Indians went for it and they said, wow, this is wonderful. These British are wonderful. British came in, they corrupted the country, they exploited, they stole everything from India, they brought everything from England, and they convinced them this is very good for you. And Indians say, yeah, wow, thank you, you're wonderful. This is amazing. Showing here how people are actually sheep. Sheep means they just stand in the masses, they just, whatever the mass go, people go. Okay, I'll go there. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he stopped all this. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, therefore, is very important. Bhaktivinoda Thakur introduced the real Dharma, not the Kaitava Dharma, all kinds of British Dharma, or, there this Brahmo Samaj society at that time, Brahmo Samaj, where everybody was like all the most intelligent Indians at that time in Bengal. They were gathering around these tea stalls, discussing these things, and they were all, propagating the modern British values as the best. This was the Brahmo Samaj, and undermining the Indian culture. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur stood against this, but in a very nice way. Introduced the real Dharma. How did Bhaktivinoda Thakur do this? I can continue a little later when we read first Srimad Bhagavatam verse. But this is one point that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was the most responsible to introduce the real Dharma and to point out this is Kaitava Dharma, this is cheating, because Dharma has so many different Dharmas. At that time in Bengal, people eating meat, fish. As we know, this humorous example that the priests were eating in Puri, they were eating fish. And we are not meat eaters, we are vegetarians, we're eating fruit. Because fish is the fruit of Ganga, the fruit of the river Ganga. So therefore we are eating fruit. This is like an Indian way of presenting the truth in a little different way, a little twist of the truth. We're eating fruit of Ganga. We are still vegetarians. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur went against all of this, and he presented in such a way to show this is the Dharma. And what is so, he had a big success. He had a quite big success, even for his lifetime. It's not like he was struggling alone and nobody wants to hear his message. No, at the end, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur started, I will speak a little bit more about this, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur found a place of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, and he had a commemoration, inauguration, eröffnung of the temple of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. Many thousands of people came. And then he started his own movement, Shri Vishva Vaishnava Raja Sabha, like we have ISKCON. Bhaktivinoda started Vishva Vaishnava Raja Sabha, like a society of the devotees who are interested to advance the spiritual life. And many important members of the society joined, interestingly enough. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so influential because he was one of those people who was sitting in a tea stall, one of the most intelligent students. He was educated. First of all, his English was very good. He was educated by the British, and he was one of the most intelligent. Belonged to a group of one of the most intelligent Indians at that time. So much so that they gave him even offered him a job as a district magistrate, which means like was Rechtsanwalt. Wie sagt man das auf Deutsch? Rechtsanwalt. Richter. Is a Richter. Like at that time, this was the highest post any Indian can have in the British India, the highest. And Bhaktivinoda was offered to this. He was not even pushing for it. They asked him because they saw he was a man who is very intelligent. And Bhaktivinoda did it, and he did it with such a ease. It was so easy for him to do this. It was just cases. He said some other people will take months to clear these cases. Bhaktivinoda did it in one day. He just did everything, and then he finished. And as soon as he finished, he would go back to his home and start writing or reading Vaishnava literatures. Anyways, to come back, Bhaktivinoda was very successful in his establishing the real Dharma instead of Kaitava Dharma, cheating Dharma. But I will speak a little more about this. First, Maharaj, gibt's was? Möchtest du noch was?
He was a very important intellectual.
Yes.
Recognized before he became a devotee, before he manifested his devotion to Krishna.
Yes.
He had already he wrote many books also.
He made, yes.
Yeah, not about Krishna consciousness, but about education and so on.
Yes. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was, when you look at his life, he's an amazing person in reality. He's like an amazing, Maharaj, you gave me this to read, and I was reading this, and I was reading also yesterday something. He's an amazing person. It's like an amazing achievement. What has he achieved? This is just an amazing thing. He went basically alone against the whole world. Alone. This is amazing. Like one person. As I said, usually people are sheep. You know, people follow the group, and the group said the British is the best, and they all go there. Yes, British, this is the best. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, no, this is the best. But he said it in such a way, presented it in such a nice way, that people accepted it. He wrote this book called Sri Krishna Samhita. An introduction, like a first part, when you read it, you think like, Bhaktivinoda, what is this? The introduction is that he wrote along with at that time taught that Vedas are not eternal. The Vedas are written by somebody, whatever, 1,000 years ago, and so on and so forth. And then you read it, you think it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur a little bit Maya. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur used this to please. This was the real bridge preaching, as we call it nowadays. He used this to please the public. When they read this, they're pleased. But then the second part is all about pure devotional service, about establishing Radha and Krishna as the worshiping Radha and Krishna as the eternal dharma of the soul. So, and everybody praised the book very much. So this is some finesse. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he did everything. Whatever we think we are now revolutionaries, like we have different movements now, like Krishna West and so on. This is just a copy of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur. For example, Bhaktivinoda Thakur already did this, but he did it with success. This is one thing which we should always consider when nowadays, as the movement grows, and in the future, I'm so sure so many people will think, okay, now is the new time, now we should try something new. We can just return back to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote this one booklet called Bhagavatam, about Srimad Bhagavatam. And the beginning of the book, Bhaktivinoda says that we all like to read something new, always new. This is the mind always likes to do this. We talked about mind the other day. Mind likes something new, and now it is a new time. We don't need this, or what Prabhupada, some even arguments, whatever Prabhupada spoke, this is from the old days, now that the world has changed. So therefore we need to introduce new things, like for example, the mentioned West and so on. We need to do new things now. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, no, we don't need new things. We just need to have properly heard the old message. We cannot throw away and thinking everything is wrong. This is wrong. This is also not intelligent. Why would we need to invent, as we say, invent the wheel again? Wheel is already existing. We don't need to invent. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur invented the wheel already. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati built the wheel, and Prabhupada distributed the wheel all over the world. So these three personalities are like amazing, amazing personalities. Bhaktivinoda Thakur reinvented the wheel, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati built the wheel, and Prabhupada distributed the wheel. This is like a perfect cooperation. And these three giant personalities in our recent Vaishnava history did this. They did everything. We don't need to do we don't need to invent it, we don't need to do anything except to follow their instructions. And this is so easy. We have it so easy. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was revolutionary in the sense that whatever he did, he also had results. We can have, I want to now, we should do this way, it's the new days of ISKCON. But where is your result? Where are your millions of people? Where are your, not millions, where are your thousands of people? Not thousands, where are your hundreds of people? Not hundreds, where are your dozens of people? None. No result, except that we divert the mind of the normal devotees who a little bit, their faith is shaken, so we convert them, you should, you dhotis, wearing dhotis, Maya, whatever the philosophy is. But the reality results is not there. The results are not there. So what's the point? Bhaktivinoda Thakur had results. He wrote a bridge preaching book called Krishna Samhita, but he had results. Many intellectuals of that time praised the book, saying this is wonderful. He converted the minds of many important people in his time, that they became Vaishnavas, or they started thinking that Vaishnavism is after all not so bad. So this is we have to always have, as Prabhupada always used this word, palena parichiyate. Pala means fruit. The fruit of our preaching has to be shown. The fruit of our, if you have some idea, or if you have, it has to be fruit. What is the fruit? How many people joined, or how many people, Prabhupada always say, and this was in my time when I joined, this was it. How many people have joined, how many temples you have opened, how many books have you distributed? This is like three most important questions in the Hare Krishna movement. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So I think I can speak a little more. Yeah.
Yes, one question. Yesterday I talked with one Muslim and he...
With what?
One Muslim.
A Muslim, okay.
He was also quite intellectual, but he said, it's not possible that this, from Guru decided that this would work, that it's not changed at all. And I was thinking, I also have a little doubt actually in my mind. I didn't want to discuss because it was not necessary. This little doubt in my mind, how can we really know that nothing was edited? There's the cycle line, but maybe you can explain a little more.
Can you do it one more time? I did not understand.
So the question is, how can we more deeply understand that nothing was changed in the disciplic succession?
He thinks the life is life.
But change in what?
I don't know, change in some knowledge, or I don't know, some principle, I don't know, whatever. Just in general, maybe you can explain a little more so I can clear the doubt in my mind.
Maharaj? He asked,
I only heard, how can we?
No, this is, this is not. The question was, in time things are changing.
Yeah.
And how can we know that things really did not change? The Bhaktivinoda Thakur really brought the real message of Lord Chaitanya, for example. Or the Prabhupada brought the real message of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or something like this. That how do we know that the message has not been changed?
Sadhu Shastra. That's the only way. That's our system.
Yes, Guru Sadhana Shastra. Another also is coming back to this, Phalena Parichiyate. The fruit of your work will show, ultimately. And you can see by Prabhupada's work that something worked well. Obviously something worked well. So this is what it is. And also we have now the books of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We have books by Rupa Goswami, and you can actually read it. And if you don't believe that the Prabhupada translated well, go to the Vaishnava Institute. What's the name place this in Vrindavan? Vaishnava Institute, I forgot the name. Just below Krishna Balaram, there's one institute. Vaishnava.
It's not there anymore.
Not there anymore.
No, they moved it.
Oh.
You mean where the manuscripts are?
Yes. Oh, they moved. Oof, wasn't in Vrindavan for some time. The original books, you can say, the palm leaves, the Goswami's written the books, so you can read it and you can see if it's true or not. But yes, this is the one thing. And the second thing, we see by fruit of our own endeavor. If Prabhupada wrote in something in the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, and if we follow this, and if we have results, then obviously this is true. And those who are practicing Krishna consciousness for a long time, they know it is true. Otherwise, why would we do this? Are we really so stupid? Maharaj, 50 years practicing Krishna consciousness. I mean, you know.
The reason is that I'm useless for anything else.
Yes, this is your humility, of course. But the reality is, like, you can see so many intelligent people, so many senior devotees, intelligent devotees, scholars, they practice Krishna consciousness. Why? Are they really dumb, like really brainwashed? No. So there must be something there. This is one, yes.
Es ist, dass im Veganen erstmal kein Chaitanya Charitamrita auffindbar war.
Wie bitte? Am Anfang, ja.
Genau, und wo haben Sie dann das erste gefunden, oder wie war das dann?
I don't know, I don't know exactly where did he find it, but he found one. He found somewhere, I don't know where. He found one book, and then once he found it, he wrote so many books based on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because he has to somehow broadcast this. So this is another point, very interesting point, that we also should write and speak and preach as much as possible to spread this knowledge. And nowadays we have so many devotees write books, and so many devotees speak, and so many devotees have programs. And this is all coming from these books. Because what is ultimately Srimad Bhagavatam, we spoke yesterday about Srimad Bhagavatam in the Bhakta class. Srimad Bhagavatam is a conversation between mostly 2 people or 3 people. It's a conversation. It's the recording of the conversation of the holy people. And once Virabhahu Prabhu actually gave once explanation what is Ishta Goshti. That Ishta Goshti or what we speak also during the Bhagavatam class, this is also Bhagavatam, like what I speak right now. It's not like I am a very important person, but I speak this based on this book. So therefore it's a further elaboration on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur he did. He just wrote so many very, very important books, particularly when he wrote this book, Chaitanya Shikshamrita. The instructions, the nectar instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is a very, lots of philosophy and life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this book really was very successful also. Because what he explained, that Krishna consciousness has philosophy. You know, at that time they thought, you know, like now religion in Christianity or, I don't know, Islam, you know. They think there's some bunch of like fundamentalists with no brain, or they're just like, oh yeah, Jesus, and they have no idea if you ask them anything. That's why in the Bhakta class I asked devotees to learn who are these people on the altar. When somebody comes and asks you who is it on the altar, you have to know. Not that you're a Bhakta, you have no idea who Lord Chaitanya is or who Lord Nityananda is, or who are the Parampara. What is Parampara? Why do we have these people on the altar? So therefore, meaning that Bhaktivinoda Thakur showed that we have so much knowledge behind this apparently very simple tradition. Very simple, we just sing You know, this is Gaudiya Vaishnavism is basically singing. That's what it is. Eating some nice food and singing. This is what Bhakti Vikash Maharaj explains when he first time went to Bangladesh. He was sent to preach in the 70s, to preach in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh was that time lots of Vaishnavas. This is the Lord Chaitanya's land. And mostly what they did was not much katha, but mostly singing kirtan. These kirtaniyas, famous kirtaniyas, like a super expert kirtaniyas. They sing very nicely. And they roll on the ground and cry, tears, Gauranga. Because this was ultimately the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was also crying, rolling on the ground. But the only problem is that they did this artificially. And he said after this they finished, and Bhakti Vikash Swami was very impressed, like, wow, these people are so much devotion than me, I'm just a Westerner, you know. But then after they finish, they just go and they smoke cigarettes or they do something completely, you can see this was the business, and you get money for it, and then you go and do your life. So he said, no, this is wrong, this is something wrong here. So apparently Vaishnavism is very simple, we just sing and dance a little bit, and you know, when people see us on the street, we are like, and people say, oh my God, I'm not going to join this. You know, some people sing and dance. Because they don't know that we have a philosophy behind it, like a heavy philosophy. But not only philosophy, that we have also explanation of how to live in this material world. How to, you know, political philosophy we have also. How to govern the world, we also have. You know, how to live a family life. We have also about psychology. There's so much you can read, learn so much about psychology. I'm just reading the Sukhotra Swami's, not book, but booklet about Vedic psychology. There's so much to learn about psychology, for example, from the Bhagavatam. And so on, and so many different topics we have. You know, creation, physics. We can learn so much about physics in Srimad Bhagavatam, so much about time, so much about all kinds of, you know, the aspects of modern academia, you know, for example. So we have to, as preachers, we have to show all this. We have to show all of it to the whole world. Okay, yeah.
Please, thank you so much. Could you say a few words about Sharanagati?
Sharanagati? What you mean? It's the song of Sharanagati, or?
No, to say a few words of what the lyrics of Bhaktivinoda.
I don't. Do we have here Sharanagati? What is the name of the song? I don't know.
It's his work. It's a song, yes, it's just in Bengali, is his own songs.
Yeah, there were several songs of Sharanagati.
I'm sorry, I wanted to listen something about Sharanagati, but if it's not playing,
It's not. I don't have it, and you know, I can maybe read each song, but I don't have it here.
It's a book.
It's a book, Sharanagati is.
Prayers.
Yeah, there's several songs explaining the various aspects of Sharanagati. But right now it's not somehow practical. And also Srimad Bhagavatam we have to read.
just on the whole, it's okay.
No problem. So, Srimad Bhagavatam. So, 29, 64. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Nana Bhutam Kvachanena Dehena Drishtam Ashrutam Dehena Drishtam Ashrutam Kadachit Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrik Atmani. Bitte schön.
Shrutam Vena Drishtam Ashrutam Kadachit Upalabhyeta Rupam Yadvikatmani Nanubhutam Vachamena
Vehena Drishtamashrutam Kadachit Upalabhyeta Yat Rupam Yadvigatmani.
Ladies.
Nanubhutam Vachanena Vena Drishtam Ashrutam Kadachit Upalabhyeta Yat Rupam Yadvikatmani
Nanubhutam Vachanena Vena Drishtam Ashrutam Kadachit Upalabhyeta Yat Rupam Yadvikatmani
Nana Bhutam, never experienced. Kva, at any time. Cha, also. Anena Dehena, by this body. Adrishtam, never seen. Ashrutam, never heard. Kadachit, sometimes. Upalabhyeta, may be experienced. Yat, which. Rupam, form. Yadrik, whatever kind. Atmani, in the mind. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Sometimes we suddenly experience something that was never experienced in the present body by sight or hearing. Sometimes we see such things suddenly in dreams. Purport. In dreams we sometimes see things that we have never experienced in the present body. Sometimes in dreams we think that we are flying in the sky, although we have no experience of flying. Does Maharaj, Maharaj, was it your dream that you said every night you were dreaming that you were flying to a certain point? This means that once in a previous life, either as a demigod or astronaut, we flew in the sky. The impression is there in the stockpile of the mind and it suddenly expresses itself. It is like fermentation taking place in the depths of water, which sometimes manifests itself in bubbles on the water's surface. Sometimes we dream of coming to a place we have never known or experienced in this lifetime. But this is proof that in a past life we experienced this. I remember when I was very young, 8 years old or something, I dreamt several times that I'm arriving in one city, and I never been to. I'm from a very small town, and I'm arriving in this big city, and the colors were very different. Like they're different than our colors here. It's a little darker and a little more. And I was always dreaming going to this city. I was thinking, I've never been to this city. What's the city? But maybe, who knows? Maybe I lived in this city before. But this is what Prabhupada said. This is the mind. How mind is like this is an amazing thing, as we spoke the last couple of times about the mind. The mind is, there's this storage of information. This is called chit in Sanskrit. This is the one part of, you can say, mind, that is the storage of the information, like thousands and millions of lifetimes we had. And this is all stored somewhere. And sometimes things like a bubble, like in the lake, sometimes you see the bubbles from the bottom, isn't it? And then you wonder, what do they do down there in the bubbles? That this is how it is. Our mind have these memories, and sometimes it comes, and you are wondering, what happened? Where did this come from? Where did this come from? And this is Prabhupada says here. This is from the previous lifetime. Experiencing this lifetime, but this is proof that in the past life we experienced it. The impression is kept within the mind and sometimes become manifest either in dream or in thought. The conclusion is that the mind is the storehouse of various thoughts and experiences undergone during our past lives. Thus, there is a chain of continuation from one life to another, from previous lives to this life, and from this life to future lives. This is also sometimes proved by saying that a man is a born poet, a born scientist, or a born devotee. If, like Maharaj Ambarish, we think of Krishna constantly in this life, Savaimana Krishna Padara Vindayo, we will certainly be transferred to the kingdom of God at the time of death. Even if our attempt to be Krishna conscious is not complete, our Krishna consciousness will continue in the next life. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 6.41. Prapya punya kirtan lokan ushitva shashvatik samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto bijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. If we rigidly follow the principles of meditation on Krishna, there is no doubt that in our next life we will be transferred to Krishna Loka, Goloka, Vrindavan. So, just to say a little bit about this, that Prabhupada here at the end, of course he explains about the mind, the bubble, so we have different memories, which is in itself proof that we have lived many lives. Because it does not make any sense that mind is a blank slate, that we are just born, and as many materialists think nowadays, most of the people think, we were born, we live our life, then we die, and that's it. Therefore this philosopher, Epicurus, famously said, this is always my favorite quote of all times, and because it's very funny, he says, death is nothing to us.
It's
nothing to us, like nothing. Because before, he explained, before we were born, we were just atoms in this world. Nothing, we were just atoms spread all over the universe. And then we live for some time, and after we die, we'll always also become atoms. So it doesn't matter if you die. It makes no difference. So therefore, we should use this life to enjoy as much as possible. This is the conclusion. Of course, it's a little, not so gross as this, but people misuse this and they say, yeah, sure, there's only one life. Prabhupada always quoted also a humorous statement by Charvaka Muni, who said, somehow or other, by hook or by crook, beg, borrow, steal, but eat ghee every day. Because in India at that time, to eat ghee was considered the highest pleasure. If you eat ghee, that means you are rich, you have a car, you are opulent. So therefore, enjoy, even if you steal, if you do illegal things, doesn't matter, because there's no life after this. So therefore enjoy right now, as much as possible. And this is what we have in the society. This is this so-called hedonistic society. Enjoy as much as possible. Your wife, you become bored of your wife, get another one, who cares? There's only one life, enjoy. This after a few years, this wife is not good, kick her out, get another one. So this is the society, hedonistic society. They don't think about the consequences that you're breaking the Dharma. For example, how much you have to suffer because you broke the Dharma. And so how much you inflicted pain to the other living entity by mental pain or physical pain. Like for example, whatever, as so many examples in this material world. Wars, for example, completely unreasonable and unnecessary, but people do it because, for example, people sell weapons. They sell tanks, or they're these professional salesmen. They sell tanks and they sell, imagine you are selling tanks to somebody to kill other people. This is such a bad karma, but people think, I don't care, I get money now. I don't care what I sell. If there's a buyer, I'll sell it. So this is all wrong, because people do not understand this point that we have lived lives before and that we will live lives in the future, and depending on our consciousness and our activities, we will get to the next body. This is a very important point, and therefore we as devotees, we are a little bit, verstrict, we are a little bit restrained in our activities, The devotees sometimes appear a little bit robotic, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this. Especially when you go visit your parents. Oh, I don't want to touch this, I don't want to eat this. And then they cook something. Is there eggs in there? Many times we go, you visit somebody you want some cookies? And you said, is there eggs in there? First thing you ask. People are like, oh my God, I don't know, it's a cookie. They offer you something. But devotees always, because we don't want to create further karma. And we want to follow the rules given by our acharyas. And Prabhupada says here, this is a promise of the pure devotee of the one of the Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas, most important Gaudiya Vaishnava acharya for us at this moment, that he said, if we rigidly follow the principles of meditation on Krishna, there is no doubt that in our next life we will be transferred to Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. This is a promise for Srila Prabhupada. And many such statements we can read. For example, in the letters of Srila Prabhupada, that he promises to his disciples, just do this, one life, and you will go back to Krishna Loka. So if a pure devotee promises, Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati, that Prabhupada explains this verse, and he said that Krishna could even break the promise. Sometimes, as he took the wheel, he wanted to attack Bhishma, because Bhishma was about to kill Arjuna. Because Krishna promised he will not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. But then for the sake of his devotee, he was ready to break the promise. But then, therefore he said, Konteya pratijanihi, you declare, Arjuna, because if my devotee says, this must be true. So, meaning that Krishna did not want to say, I will save you, because people say, okay, yeah, he promised also this, but he didn't fulfill. But if the devotee promises, it must be true. It must come to reality. So if Prabhupada promised here, if he rigidly is important word here, rigidly follow the principles of meditation of Krishna. We have to rigidly follow these rules, rigidly. Nowadays it's not so rigid, I must say.
What is rigidly? Could you get us?
Strictly.
Rigidly, strictly.
It's very strictly. Rigidly means no left or right. Just this rigid, strictly follow. Then we can expect success. If we don't follow rigidly, we cannot expect maybe success. And nowadays the mood is a little bit like the emphasis on rules is not so much, because we should become more doing Krishna consciousness with the heart, which is also true. The one devotee in the previous Srila Prabhupada disciple, he said, in our times, in the 70s, we had so much Shakti, but we did not have Bhakti. Because there was so much into following rules and the pushing. But actually this was the Bhakti also, following the Prabhupada's instructions, and they had so much love for Prabhupada. But nowadays, the preaching is to do not much Shakti, not much rules, but more Bhakti, more love, more having love, the approach of love, and from the heart, as they say. Which is also true, we need to do this, but at the same time, if we overstep the border, you can overstep the border on both sides. You can be so rigid, and then we can, as the Nectar instruction says, we can follow the rules just for the sake of following. We don't even know why are we following them. Just rules, follow rules. And in the end, why are we following these rules? But on the other hand, if we are just saying this, we should just approach everything with the heart and forget about rules. This is also niyamagraha. This is in Nectar instructions. And then we can become sahajya. Because sahajya means natural. We should not force Krishna consciousness on us. We should approach it naturally. Whatever is from your heart, we should naturally serve Krishna. Which is nice, but without the rules, we can become sahajya. And then we can break the principles, or we can whatever. And then we can think this is still okay because I'm honest. I heard this also many times lately. At least I'm honest. No, it's nice that you're honest, but you should still follow the rules. Because if you don't follow the rules, if there's no austerity, the movement will dissolve. The movement will desolate. The movement will dissolve into a group of neophyte, very, very neophyte devotees. And therefore, if you are a neophyte devotee yourself, your followers will become double neophytes. And the whole movement will be dissolved. So we have this duty towards ourselves as devotees to make advancement. And here, as Prabhupada says, go back to Godhead, transfer to Krishna Loka. But we also have duties to maintain the movement. This is also part of our service. Our service is not only for ourselves, our service is also to maintain the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in the way of Srila Prabhupada, what Srila Prabhupada gave. So we have this double duty. This is also a duty. So that's what I want to say about Srimad Bhagavatam. Any comments or any questions so far? Yes, Mataji.
So how to coincide? You were speaking now very hard to say, valuable for me.
Very?
Very valuable.
Valuable,
Listening
okay.
to the attentive
Yes.
so much as I can.
Yes.
Yes, and every word was correct for me. What
Yes.
I can say, yes, just boom, boom. Yeah, but how to coincide, you see, in the street, how to both sides. Yeah, so I'm trying to preach somehow from the heart, and my heart is dirty. I understand it somehow, but I can't. How can I combine it? So.
Prabhupada is doing it through his books. Your activity out there is just to give them the books. Prabhupada sometimes even said by hook or by crook. If they take a book, Prabhupada preaches to them. He's the best preacher we have.
Yes, certainly. But I should say something.
Huh?
I should also say something.
Yeah.
They should be interested in it.
I don't.
It's okay.
Yes, Prabhupada said. I'm sorry?
I can't come and read the book. Sometimes there is.
Yes, Prabhupada said we should on the street in the Sankirtan while distributing books we should be like lions, and at the temple we should be like lambs. So this lambness, when we are a little lamb in the temple, means humble devotee, it also manifests in Sankirtan. When somebody sees us, and we develop Vaishnava qualities at the temple, then when we go out there, we will have Vaishnava qualities, and people will notice this. And we will touch people's heart by our own personality. For example, how many times, like I heard Sankirtan stories that, somebody's harassing devotee, you have this, you have that, you have this. And devotee is just taking everything humbly. And I said, okay, thank you, have a nice day. Usually, that's how we were saying in Sankirtan. And people leave, and the guy left. And 2 hours later, he came back and he said, I'm really sorry, I don't know what happened to me. Why was I so nasty to you? He apologized to the devotee and he said, I don't know what happened to me, I'm never like this. And he apologized and he buys a book in the end, meaning this was just a test from Krishna. This is one thing. And second of all, we should be a complete devotee. Therefore, the temple is the place that we learn how to be a devotee, proper devotee. Like for example, once this Taradas, he was distributing books in Los Angeles airport, and one Indian man came and he recited the shloka. And Tara recited the shloka after in the Bhagavad Gita. The shloka after, because he was very knowledgeable in the Bhagavad Gita. And the man recited another shloka after that shloka. And Tara recited shloka after that. And they went on and on and on, shloka after shloka, reciting Sanskrit shlokas. And the man just stood and he said, very good. And he took $100 and gave it to him and left. So we can show this in several ways. We can be knowledgeable, we can be kind, we can be humble. But this we develop at the temple. And then we go out, people will recognize our qualities. As simple as that.
We should have made more seminars.
Oh, this is yet. Yes, we should have all kinds of things. We should have.
Clear, so it's
Yeah, I don't want to now go into that. This depends on management and GBC. This is not my.
We used to have a lot of seminars, Sankirtan seminars. Ananda Krishna, no, not Ananda Krishna. Dara's husband, he used to do.
Yeah, Navina Nirada also. Yeah.
That was a different seminar. It was how to distribute, you present yourselves and what to speak, how to. I mean, that is sharing the experiences.
Yes, yes.
See the example, that's what I mean.
Yes, at first I think we need to have some more devotees to distribute books, and because right now we have only few. We are one of the few last Mohicans, as they say. So anyways, we have a little more about Bhaktivinoda Thakur I would like to say, if it's possible. We have another few minutes. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I just wanted to some excerpts from his life, which I thought it could be very educating for us to see how did he act in certain situations. For example, there was one ghost in the tree, and the local villagers, they went to worship this ghost in India. I guess, I don't know. Do you know? Is there such a thing in your, was it in your village, such a thing? Or they worship the ghost enters a tree or hollow tree or something, and people know because there's some miracles happening around on the tree, and people worship the tree. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as he was a devotee of Krishna, he did not like this. He was a district magistrate, and he thought this should not be done. And one person came to him to ask him for benedictions or something, I don't exactly know. And he said, "What is your profession?" He said, "I'm a reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam." You know, at that time, imagine, this was a profession. You recite Srimad Bhagavatam. You just read Srimad Bhagavatam. This was your profession. I even had once in Radhakunda, I was invited, one devotee invited me for lunch. And he invited the local babas and priests, and he invited the people who read Srimad Bhagavatam. They read, actually, people who read Srimad Bhagavatam for living. So they just read, and I think 3 days lasted the whole thing, and they read whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Interestingly enough. In the whole house, imagine your house, whole Bhagavatam was read. So Bhaktivinoda said, "Oh, you should go to this tree and stand there and read Srimad Bhagavatam." So the person went, and after several days, when he finished Srimad Bhagavatam, the last word he said, when he said the last word, the tree exploded, and the ghost was gone. I just thought this is an interesting point, that we as devotees, we should understand how powerful is Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, or the words we are reading every day. These are the not ordinary words, these are the serious, transcendental sound vibration, not different from Krishna. So if the ghost could go on from the tree after 3 days or 5 days reading Srimad Bhagavatam, how much impurities in our own existence and millions of lives can be destroyed by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Nashta prayesha badeshu nitya bhagavata sevaya, that we daily read Srimad Bhagavatam, daily serve Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's an amazing literature that we should not underestimate the power of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the other, of course, Vaishnava literature. So this is one point I wanted to make. Second point is that one famous Bengali poet, Bankim Chandra, came to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he told him, "I wrote a book of poems about Krishna. Would you like to read it?" Which is an interesting point, that he approached Bhaktivinoda Thakur because he knew Bhaktivinoda Thakur was you can say he was an authority in this field. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote the books about Krishna, and he put himself in such a position that he became an authority. For example, the ISKCON, Hare Krishna devotees, we are the authority on the Hare Krishna mantra. We should be. There was this one Mayavadi singer who was some 10, 15 years ago, he recorded this album and he became a world hit all over the world. And one of the songs was the Hare Krishna mantra. And he wrote on the album, he offended ISKCON, all the ISKCON devotees. He made this is a record for the eternity. He said, the Hare Krishna mantra is the originally whatever, pure mantra, this and that. But unfortunately, by the misrepresentation of the Hare Krishna movement, the people hate Hare Krishna mantra all over the world. This was his words. This stays in the eternal offense. What? Yes. It's Krishna Das.
Yeah. They used to sell his records in our shops.
I know. I was very much not for it. And I had some discussions and even not friendly discussions with some devotees about this. But we are the authorities in the Hare Krishna mantra. We are the authorities. Also, we were the authorities in the beginning of the movement. We were the authorities on vegetarianism. We were the authorities. We have the reason why people should become vegetarians. Not for the health reasons, but for the reasons, first of all, Krishna, patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. That Krishna wanted this kind of food to be offered. So therefore, those who don't offer food to Krishna verily eat only sin. Bhagavad Gita describes. So we are not offering, of course, vegetarianism is there because we don't want to kill the poor animals. This is one of the reasons, but the main reason is actually that we are offering to Krishna and it becomes prasadam. And therefore, Prabhupada says, we are not vegetarians, we are prasadarians. The prasadam is more important than being vegetarian because Prabhupada said every monkey in the forest is a vegetarian. So what is the difference? The difference is we are offering this food to Krishna, so therefore becomes prasadam. So, and then he brought this book, Bankim Changra, to Bhaktivinoda to read. And Bhaktivinoda read it, and he found there's a lots of sentimentalism and lots of Western influence. It's an interesting point, lots of Western influence. And then he thought, no, and he spent days and days talking to Bankim Changra to correct to the proper philosophy. Bankim Changra was, of course, humble to accept all the corrections of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But meaning, also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, whenever somebody wrote something about Krishna, they wanted to read to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. First, there's to go to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And Swarup Damodar Goswami will read it and see if it's proper Siddhanta or not. If it's not proper Siddhanta, he said, go back, rewrite it if you want, otherwise don't come back. I'm not going to read this to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we have to also be knowledgeable in our Siddhanta. We cannot just write anything or speak anything, and we assumed, because I said Jaya Srila Prabhupada, that this is Siddhanta, correct in our Siddhanta. Like for example, there's some books printed some years ago, and they put it dedicated to His Divine Grace, S. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. That means it's authorized. No, it does not mean it's authorized. Authorized means if the Siddhanta is proper. The Siddhanta in this book is completely not proper. This is not our sampradaya. This has nothing to do with ISKCON. This is not our sampradaya. But then he put picture of Prabhupada and he said dedicated to His Divine Grace, and therefore it's all good. And all the devotees, as Maharaj said also, this book was also sold in our shops and devotees were buying it, and I was thinking, no, this is not proper. Again, I had some arguments. Yes, Maharaj.
We used to have in ISKCON, we used to have a kind of committee.
SEC.
Somebody who wanted to publish a book would go through this committee. Sasvarup Maharaj was there and some others.
Oh, this was in the earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they would authorize them. Just like Prabhupada also.
Yes.
Sometimes they ask Prabhupada about books, and Prabhupada gave his opinion.
Yes.
Even to the point that one time Prabhupada said that somebody was presenting a book, I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, and then Prabhupada said, this is my guru, not your guru.
Yes.
And nowadays it's different.
Or Prabhupada, for example, said, as Maharaj said, anything, because devotees wanted to publish book of Bhaktisiddhanta, and Prabhupada said, anything published after 1936, it's tainted. You should not publish it. Because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left the body in 1936. So everything published after this is not clear. Is it Siddhanta? Is it proper Siddhanta or not? So therefore, don't read it even. Anyway, so these are some points. There's much more back to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of course. But this is some points. Of course, he found the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. This is for us, this is like an amazing thing. That he discovered Mayapur. By his grace, we can go to Mayapur nowadays. Because before, devotees did not know where the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya is. They thought the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya was in Navadvip. I don't know if you've been to India, but Navadvip is on the other side of Ganga. And the Babajis who lived there, the Vaishnavas, they thought this was the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur found the real place. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also started the parikram. Nowadays we have so many different parikrams. We have Russian parikram, Chinese parikram, whatever parikrams. We have different devotees groups. Because we have so many devotees, we cannot go all of us together. There are Bengalis, I think, separately, and I don't know.
Nowadays they have a Russian parikram, Indian parikram, and the other parikram, the rest of the world.
Yeah, because there's so many devotees going to parikram. You know, this is, parikram means you walking barefoot all over these 12 islands of Navadvip. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur started this. I think it's 9 o'clock. Anyways, there's so many things. I have notes, all kinds of, but we don't have time for any of this anymore. Any questions, any more comments or about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, about something that we read? If not, then Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai.